Alright, welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 394. Those of you curious, am I still going to review episode Stinger? Yes, I still plan to review that, it's just not going to happen tonight. I'm going to do that tomorrow, along with hopefully covering Hero Mama, which was a prelude into the second Space movie, which I will be covering that tomorrow too. But this one discussing the first 4 episodes of the 37 Sentai ever released, and for me, my 38th Sentai I've ever covered. That being, under its full title of Zyuden Sentai Kyoryuger. Kyoryuger, I think that's the pronounce, yes. Yeah, so we're here discussing the first 4 episodes. Now, some fun facts about this series before we start off. Aside from the 2 I list off. This was, of course, adapted for Down Charge. A little fun fact about Down Charge, the Power Rangers adaptation of this one. That was the last regular one I watched for several years. Because I felt so far behind in the show. I did eventually go back and watch the rest of Down Charge and the following series, which were Ninja Steel, which I did kind of like that one. I think it was Beast Morphers, Dino Fury. Dino Fury was the most recent one I had cut up with before it released the Cosmic Fury. So I had roughly about 5 seasons to go through. Because, of course, Ninja Steel, Beast Morphers, and Dino Fury were 2 seasons apiece. Though at least I praise Dino Fury for basically being longer than the previous shows, being about 40 episodes. Let's see. Now, I will be, of course, making comparisons between this and the Down Charge equivalent. Now, there is some similarities, but it's unlike Samurai, which that got accused right away of being a carbon copy of Shuriken. It just someone claimed it was like they just took basically just the scripts for like in the case of the first episode, they took a script from the first episode, run to Google Translate, and claimed that was the first episode. I did put that question for the actor who played Samurai Green about that. About how the fact that the Samurai is, a lot of it is just a carbon copy of Shuriken. Okay, he did answer that question, which I'm very glad he did. Okay, according to him, that was like that for the first 12 episodes, and then they stopped doing that. As for why they stopped doing it, I don't know, but he did clarify that. They did that was like that at first, but they stopped doing it the first 12 episodes. So, that answers that question. Now, did I drop because of Zacker's nonsense? I didn't know about that until sometime after the show wrapped up, his crazy stuff he was doing. Now, of course, when this was adapted Power Rangers, he was not in charge. It was Judge Chip Lin who took over, and this, for some reason, the Sentai was adapted next after Gokaiger, and I did watch it. Well, I remember watching it initially when I was on the air, and watching it again, basically in the episodes. It's a very good show. It definitely felt like an actual Power Rangers show. And also, Judge Chip Lin actually paid respect to the show. Like, they apparently put Easter eggs, and apparently the Blue Ranger from that one is a big fan of this show. Well, not my show anyways, but basically of Kyoryuger. So, in the case of this particular season, there is one other fun fact I should point out, though. This is the first season since Go-Onger to have black and green part of the initial 5-person lineup. Which, that is interesting. Because there is technically a gold Kyoryuger, no yellow. Yeah, this actually is the first one in a long time to have no Yellow Ranger. Like, if you think about it, what was the last series that did this where we had no Yellow Ranger? That's a good question. To have no Yellow Ranger, but yet this time we have Pink Ranger. But there was one that was the last one that didn't have Pink Ranger. As a matter of fact, there were about 3 of them that technically, 2 of them that technically have Pink Rangers. And that being, Hurricaneger and / Ninja Storm, and Aba Rangers slash Dialthon that didn't have Pink Rangers but they have yellow. You could kind of say that Gal Ranger slash Wild Force Death Pink. So this basically is the first season. I'm trying to think. What was the last time I could think of? I think his first was a Changeman. That there's not been a Yellow Ranger. Which, that is interesting. You're like, really? It's been that long? Yeah, it's been that long. But here's the thing. Unlike other shows where we see them recruited, we know each other very honestly their faces. The first episode, this one not the case. Unlike in the case of the previous show, Go Busters, where they knew each other prior to becoming Rangers, this one they probably did not know who the heck these people even were. Like, some don't know the Rangers. They kept apparently a secret for a reason. As for the reason why they did this for, it is kind of weird. Where, like, the Rangers can't tell each other their real names. Like, oh, private time? We'll get to that. So, the episode starts out with the villains of the series, the Dobos Army, where they proceed to conquer the planet, and their goal is to eradicate humanity by gathering emotions. I think it was like wrath, love, and I believe it was sorrow. They use sorrow like 3 times in the course of these episodes. I think it's like 1, 3, and 4 use sorrow. Like, there's no love yet for some reason. Actually, no. Sorrow is used twice. Because the first episode didn't feature any of those emotions. Because the first one was a freeze monster, which I believe was also the first monster used in Dino Charge. Except the villain in that one wasn't the villain here. And this guy's name is Chaos. He's known as 10th Face Chaos. He did pop up on Dino Charge. He did. For 3 episodes before Sledge came back and murdered him. Yep, but at least you can't say the fact Dino Charge and use him, a guy who was a primary antagonist in this show, and I think in Dino Charge explained that his cover actually hired Sludge to steal the Dino Gems. This one, they're not Dino Gems per se. There's no mention Dino Gems. That was made for Dino Charge. There was the Chargers, which, yes, they were also used in Dino Charge, yes. They did, of course, they had to do some things in here, like also Keeper. Now, the mentor here, whose name was Torin, he does appear in Dino Charge later half of the show as a Silver Ranger. Here he appears very beginning, and there's he's not Silver Ranger here. Well, as for why they included him late, it's kind of similar with the 10-eyed priest, the 10-head priest, like 10-face priest, like why they included him late. I don't know. My guess is maybe because they want to use him at first, and then my guess is Toei probably told him basically use these characters because they are vital to the final plot of the show. And I guess Saban was maybe. My guess is either Judge Chip Lin was reluctant to use these 2 characters, or it was Helm Saban reluctant to use these 2 characters. Everyone else practically appeared, but these 2. And of course, also their headquarters is a little different than it is over in Dino Charge. For instance, their headquarters is in Dino Charge beneath a museum. Here it's in another dimension. Now, there's mentioned a museum here, yes, but it's not a dinosaur museum like it is over in Dino Charge. Now, they do keep the occupation that the Pink Ranger does in Dino Charge. That actually, I was surprised they kept that the same. Everyone else is way, way different than they were over in Dino Charge. For instance, King, who in Dino Charge, his name was Tyler. He was over the top like this guy is. Oh no. King is actually his nickname. His real name is Dorego, I think his name is. His real name. He was traveling with his father, and then his father just decided to just give him some stuff, and he can travel the world, be like warrior for great lizards, or go back to Japan. He does travel out, and that does play a role in the show, his travels. So, he's on an island in the South Pacific. That's not Japan. And he's fighting the grunts of the series, which I believe they actually call something different in Dino Charge. Oh, I forgot. This show was released in 2013. Yep, roughly 11 years ago. You're like, wow, 11 years. Oh, by the way, named the initial 5 Rangers will reveal who they really are. We'll basically reveal in a minute, basically, who they are. So our villain, like I mentioned, Double Army, led by 100-faced High Priest Chaos. And as for your 3 main generals, the Double Knights, there is Raging Knight Dagon. This guy was I believe he was adapted for Furio, if I'm not mistaken. Fury, yeah, he was. Now, is there any mention of him like having? Now, unlike in the case of what happened over in Dino Charge, where he was not introduced in the first episode. No, he wasn't. So, if you're curious, did Fury pop up in the very first episode of Charge? No, he did not. Actually, he did, but he wasn't there at first, per se. No, he didn't appear very much in Down Charge. Not really. Like, he appears less in Down Charge than he does in this show. Like, in this show, he appears for initial, like... Oh, he does appear for a lot of the show until he finally is killed off. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and the air villains. There is Sarfunai Egeron. Yes, that is his name. His whole thing is crying. And he does have a past with the Black Ranger, which I'll get to that. So, his counterpart, his name is Wrench. Then there is Joyful Knight Conderella. Which, if anybody think like, who did she appear in Down Charge? This is Point Sarah. Yep, Sludge's fiance the whole show. And, yeah. She isn't new much in the first few episodes, but she's here. And Kyoryo, yeah, her little pet that she had over in Dino Charge, he does appear here. As fun-filled spy Lakiro. So you could say that his name Kyoryo, it's similar to Lakiro, but it's not carbon copy. Oh, and in case you're curious though, did he grow? Now here, he does grow monsters by pouring a pot of water on them. Yes, he didn't do this in Dino Charge. Oh no. Ah, the crack was so good. Oh, it's a woman. Yeah. Yeah, oh, in case you're curious though, how did Sludge grow monsters in Dino Charge? Bag the beam! Just press this big button. And he does it either from orbit the planet, or they do when basically it's crashed to the surface and they fire up a satellite and that's when they go monsters big. The thing they used to capture asteroids, because he was obsessed with asteroids. You're like, really? Yes, really. Excuse me. Also, unlike now in the case of Down Charge, villain's based on a spaceship. This one is based upon in a way they're basically based upon the villain's body, who's known as the Frozen Castle. Yes. Yeah, and it's kept like underwater. Why it's kept underwater, I don't know. It's kind of how it is here. So, how King is recruited is that he fights the hordes. Torn gives him basically the charge gun they basically use in the show. Fires thing, of course, he gets to fight with his own Zord, which the only way he can accept his war is if he wins. And at first he's like, no, but he's like, he'll shoot thing, no problem, but he can't exactly transform just yet. It wasn't until the thing starts attacking the city, that's when he starts accepting him. And the Zord's name is... Gabatra. Basically, it's T-Rex. Which, in Power Rangers, they called him Rexy. Yep, they did. So, then he transforms, doing a silly little dance. He fires off in the air. Dino Charge pretty much use the same morph sequence. Except they pretty much in the way use a... Like, this is one thing that Power Rangers and Sentai have drastically different morphing calls. Like, here's a one for example. RPM and Go Onger. In Go Onger is Go On. In RPM is Getting Gear. Here's another one, a good example. I believe in the case of this Downcharge, it was Unleash the Beast. This one is just Fire. Yeah, that's pretty much the way your morphing call for this one. So then, of course, we're introduced this restaurant to a waitress, a guy who's a swordsman, a ladies' man, and a guy who basically does old man jokes. Of course, over the course of these people are. Of course, the first monster, like I mentioned, the first monster is a freeze monster. Yep, it's a freeze monster. Known as Debo Hoki, who does return a few times after this. Yes, for what I remember, I have no idea. I believe also Ice Age was initially the first villain. Yeah, so, and he's one of the Zutmites, which we'll explore later on in later episodes. Now, in the case of these 3 episodes, only Algaron Doga basically had monsters. Algaron had Persejo and Dorobushi. Dogon had Ryoya. So, by the next episode, we actually find out who Pink and Blue are. Pink is a girl named Amy, who is the daughter of some rich person in America, who was studying abroad, and she's a college student, and she's a waitress. Which, yes, they kept this in Power Rangers, surprisingly, except that she's now a waitress at a Dino Cafe, like she is over in Dino Charge. Here, she's an actual waitress at, like, a small cafe that's nothing to do with the museum at all. And also, they changed the Blue Ranger really drastically in Dino Charge. Here, he's just a guy who's got basically a sister and a niece, who doesn't appear very much in the show. They appear in the first few episodes and then they disappear. Where he's just a guy who does old man jokes, while in the case of his counterpart over in Downcharge, where he's a caveman. Yep, that's literally what he is there. And the whole thing is about developing the Blue Ranger in this one, which is interesting. Pink does not receive any development. She just randomly okay, I'll just basically morph right in front of you. Because at first, like, reluctant to morph around each other, which I don't know why this is. Because they don't really, they apparently private time. I'm like, you do realize, though, no one's around. You can basically morph. And of course, found Diego, who he is. Basically, he's Kira Red in the first episode. In the second episode, we know Kira Pink and Blue are. By the third episode, we know who Green is. And by episode 4, we know who Black is. So at first, basically, he thinks that he's very nervous. Like his family is a weakness, but actually it's a strength, obviously. And it's also this very episode that the butler finds out that Amy is Kira Pink, and knows basically his sister and basically just his niece finds out about this. That you're the guy from before. Yep, and then they transform. Then they have the other Zord show up, and the first time they form the Robo for this series was the first one. What's the combination of this one is basically red, blue, and pink. That's your initial one to start with. And it's known as Kyoryuger. Yeah, and they destroy the monsters this very episode. Now, the very next episode, we find out who Green is. Basically, it's because he has like a bad past with his father, and turns out basically like his name is Seiji. He's the Green Ranger here, and the whole thing this episode is basically about this one character, and learning his own style. The B plot is basically just like getting people in cages involving anger. But in the case of, in case you're curious though, did this monster appear? Now, okay, the answer to the obvious question for the first two. I know the first monster appeared in the episodes. Potato. His whole thing is about gathering junk. And you might be thinking, did he appear in Downcharge? He did. And he appeared initially in the first 3 episodes. He appeared a few times, but he didn't technically die off here. And apparently, like, the words that they kept basically translated. Now, Ryoya is on a Dogon, and then the last one is basically Dabersu, which I'll get to basically his whole thing. But as for the first monster of Ryoya, does he appear in Downcharge? He does, as Slammer. And he appeared technically in the way for 2 episodes. While in the case of his counterpart in Kyoryuger, he appeared in 3. Now in the case of the 4th one, which develops basically Black, which they found out was actually the character Ian, which King finds out right away, finds out he actually is the Black Ranger, due to what he says. And the fact he's reluctant to fire the trigger of his own gun against this one thief, who was responsible to his best friend. And his best friend is played by Go On Black's actor. Yes, he was a treasure hunter who gets killed. And then he died, and then he gets thrown out of a castle, and his Zorp rescues him. It's a really interesting episode. They do, in fact, mention that the cloak that the guy wears was given to him by his own... Well, he does mention this actually was his favorite monster. One of his favorite monsters, which is interesting. But I do appreciate that basically Algron gets a little bit of development in this episode. And Ian. I thought that was really cool. And by the end of this episode, we get, like, the first time ever, we get the 5 basically morphing together. Like, first, basically, it's, like, just red in the first episode. In episode 2, we get just blue, red, blue, and green. And then episode 4, we had red, blue, pink, and green. And now we have all 5. Which, yeah. And that's kind of basically what we have here for these first few episodes. And I gotta admit, these episodes are a lot of fun. And I can't wait to discuss the rest. Now, my plan is to go through the first 36 episodes because there's a movie I want to see again and do a review for. Yes. Now, will I continue making comparisons to Downward Charts? Yes. Oh, in case you're wondering though, does Kendall Morgan's counterpart appear in this show? She does, but she does not appear for a little while. Not until about halfway through the show, which is kind of interesting. I will get to her debut, but she has not appeared in the first episode like her counterpart did, like Morgan did in that one. There is other characters who will appear here too. Now, from what I read, and basically if you watch Downcharge, by the end of that show there are 10 Rangers. And right now we're only halfway through them. Unlike in the case over in Kyoryuger, where they had like 13 Rangers, this one only 10. But lucky enough, we actually wait a while before we get more monsters. Oh, and those might be curious. Will I be reviewing the second Super Nature movie for the show? Like I did for Familiar Heroes? Yes. Yes, I will. Mainly because the fact that Kyoryuger's in it. I'll probably review it right after the episode 8. Yes, it'll be the first movie I review for this one. Yes, because like in the case of the one for Kamen Rider, the first one, that one I plan to review that one again for Kamen Rider. Like I review series for this one already. I mean, when I got to the spot where it is for Go Busters, why did I review for Go Busters? Because I've discussed it already. So I didn't want to discuss it again for the series because I got to where it came out during the events of Go Busters. The second time I will discuss here in this series, because if I discuss over Middle Heroes, I plan to discuss it here and then eventually discuss over when I discuss Wizard over for Kamen Rider. Yep. But yeah, let's get pretty much that particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do another like button. Next up is well, this can wait. Yes. I'll deal with the other videos. Next up, I'm going to do Demon Lord Retry next. Okay? Next video. Bye.